view of all this, Namasmaran seems to make sense in every moment, every activity, every circumstance and every person in our life. Is it true?
Yes, that is true. Any person, place, thing, activity and time is good if our involvement in Namasmaran is boosted in its association. Conversely, with Namasmaran, all the places, all the persons, all things, all activities and all times become galvanized and better. The point is especially important because during developing stage, the associations influence us. They are either destructive or constructive. They are either negative or positive, and they are either regressive or progressive. Any policy, plan, program, activity or any place such as house, school, college, club, office, hospital, industry, laboratory, farm, garden is best if it orients us to Nama. Anything such as vehicles, clothes, perfumes, furnitures, etc. If they orient us to Nama, they are best. Any person such as employer, friend, colleague is also best if he or she orients us to Nama. Nama is our Guru. This orientation to Nama is by catalyzing our practice of Namasmaran, which is the absolutely selfless and pure and universally and infinitely benevolent activity.
My friends from US and UK laugh and ask, what authority do you Indians have to preach Namasmaran when majority of you are drowned in abysmal poverty, ignorance, irresponsibility, corruption and so many such evils? We are treated as hypocrites. Are we hypocrites?
The argument is broadly, though not absolutely, correct. Admit to them that like the rest of the world, plagued by sectarian, individualistic, petty, exploitative and such many sick trends, we, the Indians, are also ailing, though with somewhat different infections, signs and symptoms. As a result, most of the people of the world, including Indians, are either opposed to Namasmaran and thereby pamper their ego or practice it in pursuit of personal gains veiled in some semantics such as liberation, salvation, moksha, etc. Most of us therefore fail to appreciate the pivotal role of Namasmaran and manifest its impact in individual and global blossoming. But today, it is high time that we heal ourselves with this panacea, Namasmaran, for individual and universal welfare. With regard to being hypocrites, I don't think we can make a sweeping statement like this. Instead, we should find out the root of the phenomenon named hypocrisy. Most of us, whether Indians or foreigners, are hypocrites. This is a stage during our overall development.
Sir, what you say appears to be very true.
Actually, we all are hypocrites because we do not understand ourselves, we do not understand others, we do not understand whether others understand themselves and whether others understand us or not. In fact, we do not understand whether we understand any of this or not. Let us therefore understand that actually it is impossible to know ourselves and others' selves, as the selves are beyond understanding. They are beyond intellectual comprehension. They are not a tangible and concrete entity. Further, we ourselves, their selves, our perceptions and their perceptions all are changing. They are not static or constant. Thus, our hypocrisy is due to our ignorance, and in fact our ignorance of our ignorance. When we are trapped in the dilemma of what we expect from ourselves and what we actually feel and do, we get stressed. We try to overcome such stress by assuming to be what we think, what we should be, rather than accepting what we are, which is very difficult, or actually being what we think we should be, which is even more difficult. This is hypocrisy. I think you understand what I am saying. We just try to think and feel that we are what we should be, instead of actually being what we think we should be. Similarly, when we get shared between what others should think or believe us to be and what we believe the others think us to be, we get stressed by this pull. We try to manage stress by hiding things which we think people would not approve and show, exhibit and advertise things which we think people would approve, appreciate and admire. Isn't this hypocrisy? This is hypocrisy. Often we condemn others for being hypocrites. But this is merely an outburst of our own inherent internal disturbance, a kind of emotional incontinence, where we cannot reserve or preserve or contain our emotions. They are just let off involuntarily. This is caused by erroneous perception resulting from our subjectivity and prejudices, through which the information we get is filtered. This leads to our inference, deductions, and we allege the others to be hypocrites. Because of this reason, in short, such judgment is due to our own hypocrisy. Do you get why we are called hypocrites by others? Now, if this is clear, let us understand that we are trapped in hypocrisy. But as and when we are trapped in hypocrisy, we are not at ease, we are uncomfortable. This is a subtle aspect of stress.
In what way do you think Namasmaran can work here?
Yes, that is a wonderful question. Actually, this is a very, very subtle problem, the problem of hypocrisy, where there is an important aspect of subtle understanding of ourselves. Now, if we practice Namasmaran, then over a period of time, we begin to become aware of our ignorance on the one hand, and we become aware of our link with the infinite reality, the true self, on the other. We begin to realize that all our instincts, our feelings and our thoughts, that is our knowledge, how much ever perfect it may appear, is at best a relative truth, and it is miles away from the factual reality. Not only that, it is even further away from the absolute truth. Through Namasmaran, we begin to concede to ourselves that we behave and communicate only on superficial levels of consciousness. We become aware of the fact that we are unaware of the deeper subconscious and unconscious metabolic, endocrine, reproductive, autonomic, limbic and central nervous system activities and the true self, which is even further deep within ourselves. Through Namasmaran, we begin to experience that being cut off from the ambrosia in the depth of our heart, we live in a superficial mediocrity and indulge in baseless blame games based on superficial impressions about ourselves and others. This is exactly how we begin to get freed from our own superficiality and mediocrity and get passionately driven towards our own interior. Gradually we begin to live with greater fidelity to our innate core, the true self, that is our Guru, and understand the essence of the aphorism, Nama is the only truth. This is the first step towards freedom from hypocrisy.
Sir, from what I understand, for you, Namasmaran is a core of total stress management. For you, it is a way and a hallmark of global welfare in a tangible way. But how can you reconcile the views which treat it as a means of salvation, liberation, moksha, self-realization and or immortality, and it has nothing to do with politics? How can you reconcile the views which maintain that it is not only useless but actually counterproductive to study and ponder over holistic perspective, policies, plans and programs for universal welfare, and the global welfare has nothing to do with individual spiritual progress and or self-realization?
This question is an intricate one. The pinnacle or the culmination of the path of truth or spiritualism is the realization of immortality full of bliss. This is called Satchidananda. This is self-realization. This is Nirvana or Mukti or Moksha. This is the same as merging with Nama. This is the highest pedestal. This is the highest pedestal. The whole world is aspiring for this, knowingly or unknowingly. This is the final destination, the supreme abode. It is true that this state is beyond everything. It is the center of universe. It is the controlling center of universal consciousness. It is supreme. It has nothing to do with politics because it is the source of enlightened politics, embodying the holistic perspective, policies, plans, programs and their implementation in every field of life for individual and universal blossoming. This is the source of the best in everything: art, science, literature, music and politics. But it is not the same as politics. Now it must be clear to you that this state is the source of enlightened politics. So naturally, those who say that it is meaningless to indulge in politics, it is only for those who are at this pedestal that the routine political discussions and plans and policies, they become redundant, because it has to be appreciated that this state is the source and the politics is the product. The holistic perspective, plans, policies, they are the product. So we have to differentiate between the source and the actual product. Now, obviously, descending from this state to politics is not only useless but actually counterproductive. So their argument is correct. But it is with respect to this particular pedestal. Now, descending from this state to study and ponder over holistic perspective, policies, plans and programs for universal welfare is obviously useless and counterproductive, because it is the very source of individual and universal blossoming. It has nothing to do with various protocols, just as the root remember and understand again that it is the root which has nothing to do with the functions of the branches and leaves and flowers. Is that clear? So, most of us are oblivious to all this. Only some of us, very few of us, have just heard about it. Some of us have only read about it, and only few of those few have some glimpses of it. Fewer from these few have transient experience of it. Fewer still from the fewer have strong convictions about it, but hardly anyone, almost none, has attained that state. Hence, it is erroneous and or preposterous to hold that spiritual quest or the practice of Namasmaran has nothing to do with politics. It is wrong to consider that it is not only useless but actually counterproductive to study and ponder over holistic perspective, policies, plans and programs for universal welfare. And the global welfare has nothing to do with individual spiritual progress and or self-realization. Politics, remember, not the partisan politics or power politics, and the holistic concepts are essential and inevitable steps, though not necessarily uniform, specific and explicit in the process of self-realization, and they embody Swadharma. In absence of these steps, that is Swadharma, we will end up being in fool's paradise, even as we continue to get stunted in terms of instincts, emotions, thoughts and perspective. Now, therefore, understand that as a result of all that we have discussed earlier, if we do not realize this essential aspect, the essential steps which are encountered in the process of self-realization, then we degenerate into hypocrisy or helplessness, ubiquitously evident inside us and around. We who claim to be spiritual continue to lack holistic perspective, hence our education, health, agriculture, industry, economics and politics continues to be sectarian, divisive and exploitative stressors. Our life thus becomes an unending mirage full of so-called spiritualism, while all the evils inside and outside continue to flourish unabated.
Sir, I think this perspective has the potential to reunite atheist and theist or materialist and spiritualist, and to empower the practice Namasmaran and Swadharma, which is its backbone.
Actually, this happens inside. The atheism and theism, materialism and spiritualism, and Swadharma and Namasmaran unite, or actually we realize their unity inside us. It manifests later on in the society. Namasmaran enlightens us to be holistic. It enables us to reconnect reason and emotions, reconnect materialism and spiritualism, reconnect atheism and theism, reconnect individualism and socialism and all such dualities, and rekindle the universal and rekindle the universe with realization of unity and harmony. It helps us to victoriously tread the path of truth and complete the journey of reality through the essential steps and stages. It thus ensures the holistic renaissance. It is true that Namasmaran ultimately takes us to the highest pedestal. It is said so by many seers, including my Guru, Sri Brahma Chaitanya Maharaj Gondavlekar. But in absence of Sat Prerana, Sat Vichar, Sat Bhavana, Sadichha, Sat Pravrutti, Sat Vasana, Sat Sankalpa, Sat Shakti, Sat Karma and Sadachar, which we can say desires, instincts, emotions, inspirations, motivations, thoughts, plans, programs, policies, strategies and their implementation leading to individual and global blossoming. All this waiting for salvation is like a child expecting PhD without studying in school and college. When we are thinking of self-realization, it is not wrong, but it is the final stage. So in between there are stations and which we cannot miss. By missing those stations, we will just remain in the illusion that we are reaching the destination, but actually where we are, where we have started. So, we would live far more healthily and happily if in the process of practicing Namasmaran, if we pass, neither avoid nor fail through these stages.
What do you mean by Sadichha or Sat Shakti? I remember the essence of Sad Vasana, Sad Bhavana, Sad Vichar, Sad Prerana, Sad Sankalpa, Sad Karma and Sadachar, but these terms are new.
Thanks for asking me to explain. Actually it is very important. Now Ichcha means a desire and Sadichha is a desire, a single unified desire formed from the conversion and convergence of all desires of realizing truth. Shakti is energy. If unqualified, it would be an energy that could be spent in any activity. Sat Shakti means the power, the might directed into our mission as inspired by Guru to merge with him through our Swadharma.
Sir, I am still not quite clear about Swadharma.
Right. I will repeat again. From absolute truth manifests Swadharma. From absolute truth manifests Swadharma. As a source of Sat Prerana, Sat Dharana, Sat Vichar, Sadichha, Sat Bhavana, Sat Pravrutti, Sat Vasana, Sat Sankalpa and Sat Karma, which together constitute Sadachar. So from absolute truth, when we get the inspiration for holistic perspective thinking and behavior, that inspiration is Swadharma, and actual holistic perspective and the behavior is Sadachar.
This is wonderful. So what you imply by total stress management is in the essence the same as Swadharma. Sir, I am grasping what you say. Now I would like to ask a little more practical question. Is it true that in the practice of Namasmaran, the emotions, devotion are primary and are more important? Does the intellect or the reason come in the way of devotion, belief, faith and surrender, which are essential in the spiritual path?
Well, what you have asked is a very meaningful question. Now it is true that intellect may come in the way, provided the word emotions implies pure and spontaneous emotions. As compared to such innocent emotions, we are more rational and thoughtful about safeguarding our petty personal interests. Hence, we are always inhibited before making any sacrifice or taking any risk for the sake of others. We lack the spontaneity, honesty and strength. We are weak and mediocre, bereft of the innate aspiring, bereft of the innate spring of ambrosia. Pure emotions or innocence by virtue of this ambrosia is always superior to petty thinking or reason. But our pettiness is by virtue of the anatomy and physiology of our brain. Our higher centers of brain which are responsible for our thoughts, intuitions, ideas, etc. are not well integrated. Further, they have poor control over the lower centers. For example, limbic system of brain responsible for our anger, jealousy, lust, etc., which influence our thinking and make it petty. I think I have to clarify this. See, what happens is that our brain, the higher centers of our brain, have a not very strong control on our lower centers. And these lower centers, which are responsible for our anger, etc., they influence our thinking. And they influence our thinking to make it petty, mean and coward. This is what is implied whenever there is a mention about the dominant influence of Shadripus. So Shadripus are our lower nature. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada and Matsara. So like jealousy, anger, etc. Now they are born from the lower centers and they influence our higher centers and make us mediocre. So it is due to this inbuilt weakness within ourselves that we also fall prey to social trends, fashions, traditions, customs, propaganda, peer pressure, which is conducive to flaring up of our basal and carnal instincts and emotions. Is that clear to you?
Yes, sir.
So in short, pettiness of thinking is due to Shadripus, and this pettiness of thinking comes in the way of the genuine emotions which spring from the soul. Now without evolving and or sublimating the Shadripus or the basal instincts, inadvertently abandoning intellect or reason per se over the feelings and emotions is bound to be disastrous. So whenever we think of abandoning our intellect, what actually happens is that we abandon the reasoning which is defective, but we also let it not control. So our reasoning, which would otherwise control our deeper and basal emotions or basal instincts, so basal instincts and basal emotions are unleashed, so there is no thinking and basal emotions are unleashed. This is disastrous. So it would make us sectarian, superstitious, fanatic, blind, intolerant and of course indiscriminately violent and perverted. So without bothering about anything of this sort, we should keep on practicing Namasmaran. It has the benevolent effect in terms of accelerating our growth from basal, subjective and petty instincts, petty emotions, petty thinking and petty perspective to objective and globally benevolent ones.